Good evening, one and all. Stand by as I double check something. All right, we are good to go. Going to be working to finish this drawing and then proceed on to the next update. There's something I kind of avoid talking about too much, but I'm reminded about it working on this. This is the villain from the story that is being told through the D&D campaign. And there's something very, how should we say, some very heavy realizations that you kind of have to have about power and those that it draws to it. A couple of years ago, I really dove deep into trying to understand what is the draw of power. I got to meet several people that I would say are obsessed with power, and I learned its danger. Anyone can succumb to power, and I would dare say of all the temptations in the world, power is the strongest. The desire for power, the desire for control. Technically, you could argue that was the very first, it was the very second sin that was done. You could say the first one was envy. But the desire for control and power, that is a strong desire. And we don't give it enough recognition. Not like it deserves any sort of special place in our world. It's more like a warning sign that it is something that's so dangerous that the moment you go down this path, there's a very real chance you won't come out of it. Now, I don't know what this character's backstory is, but it was something where I just started thinking about that and realizing just how common I hear people that I admire toy with the idea of, what if only we could control everything? Oh, I would make the world so great if I was in control. A lot of people think that. And lo and behold, every single time, the moment you give that person power, they fumble it. Even if they're the best people in the world, the most honorable, upstanding people that you've ever met, give them power, and you will be disheartened as you see them abuse it. As such, it is an incredible draw that every single person, in some way, shape, or form, is going to crave. Either for good reasons or for bad reasons. But if you lose your values when you get power, the chance of you recovering and still doing good with it goes from slim to none. It is fascinating to realize just of the people that I look up to, of the people that I hold in high esteem, that have authority and have power, every one of them at one point or another fumbles it, messes up pretty badly in some cases. People mock them and say about how, oh, they're just so weak. They messed up horribly. I would have done better if it was me in that position. The whole time, people not realizing this is one of the strongest temptations in the entire world, in the entire universe. Technically, you could say Satan is driven by this desire for power. And now it's driven by a sense of revenge and harm. But mankind is driven to seek more power. And you have to try and thwart it. And one of the best ways to thwart it is with humility. Taking the desire for more and saying, I'm going to intentionally choose less. Sounds really dumb, doesn't it? I earned this. Why can't I use it on myself? Well, there is no reason why you can't use the things that you earn or the things that you build for yourself. But it's not very long lasting. And there are warnings in Scripture that tell us the dangers such a mindset can create. If you love yourself more than others, it will show. And you will likely make horrible, horrible decisions. People are going to see, eventually, how selfish you are. And you will lose a lot of influence. A lot of influencers mess that one up. They get power, they wield it wildly, and then they wonder why everyone suddenly turns on them. See, despite the temptation for power, we also have, if you don't have power, you are adverse to any such behavior. And it starts to reek in your nostrils, you could say, and you cannot stand it. You want to know what a man is capable of? Give him power. And then quickly take it away from him. If he abuses it, you know he is a bad man. If he uses it wisely, well, maybe risk giving more. But don't go too far down that path, because you never know what it is that's going to cause somebody to snap and suddenly start to seize power. The best thing to do is seek to support and follow the person that doesn't try and grab power. Good luck trying to find people like that. I've known honorable people that the moment that they start getting power, they'll justify it saying, well, I'm going to be using it for good. Now, granted, somebody has to use it for good. I don't doubt that. But man, there's a lot of people that the moment that they start thinking that they are the answer to all society's problems, that inevitably leads to a lot of problems. But anyway, somebody has to take that power. And you'd rather want to give it to somebody who is going to use it honorably than someone who is going to dishonorably use it for themselves. You'd rather want to take your chances with somebody of honor. But how do you find someone of that sort of caliber? I honestly don't know. Because you could find somebody that has who has good caliber, good restraint. But they might have another problem. They might be scared. They might be cowardly. And that can be just as problematic, because then that means that somebody who craves the power will take it from them by force. And you can't have that either. So you need someone who can wield the power but also not succumb to it. Who's not afraid to hold on to it, but also knows when to let go. Very strange sort of requirements, isn't it? You know something else to remember about people of power? Beware the person who flatters. If there's somebody who is around a person of power and they're flattering them, you might want to keep an eye on them all the more. Because the person who flatters is trying to get into their good graces. They're trying to take over. They're trying to use that person's power for ill purposes. There's a story about a Christian that I know. A story of a Christian that I heard about. Sorry, not that I know, but I know the story. He was arrested by Saddam Hussein, and he was taken to be in the prison. And Saddam Hussein would come down on the regular, and he would threaten to keep killing him. It's like, I'm going to kill you if you don't change your ways. And he resisted. But he would do something else as well. After threatening him, many times he would actually ask him for direction. And it was kind of an odd sort of request, a tyrant asking him, a prisoner, for guidance. By the way, this is not the only time in history this has happened. I've heard of a couple of tyrants that have done this throughout history. But the Christian would respond with, what you're doing is terrible, and you are doing terrible, evil atrocities that God detests. And Saddam Hussein would say, turn around and walk out. He kept counseling this Christian that he kept in his prisons. Every day he would threaten him and ask also for guidance. I think power understands when someone is going to tell them the truth. Somebody who doesn't seek their power. That prisoner was never going to get Saddam Hussein's power. And so thus, Saddam Hussein knew that if he were to ask him for honesty in a response, he knew he was going to get it. Even though he would never act on it. He still knew that the man intended to tell him the truth. Power needs to find people that can kind of keep the monster at bay. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Greetings there, Jersey. How are you doing? But anyway, just an observation about power, that always be careful with it. Be careful of people that you give who you give that power to, because you might regret it. Well, chances are you will regret it. Someone's got to have it, though. Otherwise, someone else will take it by force. Alright, let's bring this back, and let's see how this looks. Okay, that's looking decent. take a little bit of refinement until it's all ready. And then we'll do a slight blurring and blending, and then we will call the shadow complete. I love the first words I heard were Saddam Hussein. Yep, indeed. Indeed. He was an evil, evil man. And yet, even he could understand that he needed someone of honesty to speak to him, even if that person, he did not like what he heard. How are things going with you, Jersey? Any more progress on your artistic skills? It's just a little too much. Tone it back just a tad. Good to learn yesterday how to use alpha lock settings and clipping, making the colorful lines cleaner and faster to make. Previous method was selecting the line art layer with the control and drawing over the selection area. It was a bit slow and buggy sometimes. Hey, progress. Nicely done. I think the last time I got to draw this picture, I spent like 30 minutes on it. Now I've spent hours on this one. So it's definitely an improvement. Not quite as nice as I would have liked it to be, but at least it's better than it was last time. Hair has always been a struggle for me. I can do a little bit like this, but trying to get really good looking hair, I always struggle with that. Has a bit of a feather look to it. Yeah, that's interesting. Not necessarily good, but not terrible. Some people really do well with their hair. Some real professional techniques out there. I've gone through a couple tutorials, and for whatever reason, it just... every time I do it, something goes wrong. I mean, sure, it will turn out fine, but it won't turn out great. I only wish I could use the blend tool a bit more reliably, since I'm not used to blending with airbrushes instead of finger dipping it. Instead of just finger dipping it. Good thing that inking and octoling. Octoling? Inking in. Oh yeah, I drew and don't have much. From Splatoon. Oh, Octoling. That's right. That's right. You know, I've not turned on my Switch in years at this point. I bought a Switch because I was participating in game streams with some other folks, and I never got to use it more than maybe 25, 30 times. So it just is sat on the shelf. I never got my money's worth out of it. And then the Switch 2 came out, and thus the chance of reselling it kind of disappeared. So now I just kind of keep it for the hope that one day I'll be able to utilize it again. Or maybe just give it to someone. I have no idea. I bought Splatoon 2 as well, which was... never got to play that more than, I think 5 times. 5 times getting to play that. And apparently got way better after I stopped playing it. I was originally going to be trying to participate in a series of streamer competitions. And there's a couple of those out there. And there's a guy that I knew that did it all the time, and was trying to coordinate with him about how to get involved with it. And that fell through. It's amazing how kind of biting a lot of the online communities can become if you don't have the right connections. And I messed up in a couple of ways. I lost my connections, and so I didn't think that it would cause any massive issues, and it did. It did indeed. Not like I mean, it had to, I had to end things anyway, so it's not like I was going to be able to, like I was strategizing or anything. It's out of conscience that I couldn't press on, so yeah, it's fine all the same. Maybe one day I'll get it to open up again. We did try a couple of community game streams with that, with Mario Kart, which I'm not a huge fan of Mario Kart. I think some other racing games are better. But we tried Mario Kart, we tried Splatoon, and we had, like, for the most part, we had no participants, which is understandable. We had participants the first time around, but no participants after that because just too many people were doing it, and that was kind of cutting into people's enjoyment of it. Porcupine hair. Yeah, it does kind of have that look, doesn't it? You know, I think I need to pull up the reference right now because I'm getting all over the place with this. Aha. Oh, yeah, that's right. Wow. I completely spaced on this technique. This will go much better. Alright, gonna pull up this reference because, yeah, I'm not liking how that hair is turning out. Alright, I got it pulled up. We're gonna try that again. And actually, let's just get rid of the hair entirely. Start from scratch. Let's put another layer over top of all of this. And we're going to just fill it in with gray. Because I really want to get this right. Because I don't do hair very well. And this is a good time to learn. Get better at it. We're going to keep a similar sort of style to what this guy had, but I'm going to try and use some techniques that other people have been referencing, that some other people are referencing. So we're going to keep up to about there. So that's another layer that I just put over top of it. Okay. Now he's the brainless villain. Okay. Let's sketch the hair shapes. Now this is the big thing that I forgot. You have to create this in shapes. Yeah, adds a little bit more mass to that up there. And then I have to go with this area over here. Let's see here. That's not the reference I want. I want this other one right here. Okay, so what other people have done is they do this. Let's shave off this side over here. Going back and redrawing is usually a really good option. You'll many times come up with something far better, but man, it can get discouraging because you're like, darn, I'm taking more time to do this. Okay, now I have to split the hairs like this, so I'm clumping them. And I can have a couple stray ones, but for the most part I need a stick to the clumps like this. We'll do a more refined one in a moment. And then we have to have it all going back to the front like this. So these are all our guides. There we go. Do this, do this. And we're going to actually have it go a bit further, and then it's going to drop like that. Yeah, okay, maybe make it go down a little bit more. There we go. That's a little bit better. Let's pull up another reference so I can be able to verify and maybe refine this a little bit more. Thicken the lines so I know which ones are good. Merge these together. No, well, yeah, we will split this one up. Now when we come to here, it's actually going to skip this area right here. Just going to go straight on up. Let's shorten some of these strands. We want the hair to cling to his head just a little bit more because he does have a bit of a buzz cut. Actually, let's just bring some of these on down like this. Not buzz cut. What is the hairstyle called? What it like anyway, I don't know my hairstyles very well, but anyway, it's a closer cut, and it's not necessarily supposed to be like youthful hair. It's supposed to be someone who's maybe in their middle age. Maybe we'll also have to where this guy is damaged. What if it was where he's like missing a patch of hair right there? Actually, he's got scars. Originally it went over the eyebrow, but it might be more interesting if it's like that. Although it might look a little too modern, because I've seen some people cut their hair like that. These inner strands need to be nice and thin. Don't really just stand out. So thick outer strands, thin inner strands. So far I'm liking the style a lot better. Definitely not perfect, but better than what it was. Much appreciated. Their jersey, much appreciated. Although, I still will always, whenever it's dangerous looking at references, because while the references will help you do better, it also makes you think, I'm almost there. Advanced free transform. So that right there was the mesh transform. It's found up under here, edit, transform, mesh transform. Very helpful. I wish it was a kind of a tool out here, but they don't have it. Greetings there, Neurodivergent. Much appreciated. I don't know how many people are watching over on the Rumble side, and so, but I do appreciate you stopping by and giving that reminder to folks. How are you doing, Neuro? We're in the process of getting the this next piece of artwork to add to the D&D campaign for Moonskull. Moonskull is... oh, look at that. We just got a bot that tried to get in. Haha, take that bot. Moonskull has a lot of shows going on. They are very active, and they're doing quite well for themselves. Granted, they have a lot of challenges ahead as they try and build up their channel, but they've been off to a good start. So it's great that I get a chance to assist with them with the occasional intro. This one was done last year, and this one is getting an update because a lot of the artwork from then just was not good. And so I'm trying to update a couple of the images so that way it's not so embarrassing to have it up there. Greetings there, Justina. How are you doing? All right, I think I'm ready to try and re-ink this. So let me fade that out and add another layer for this. Oh, look at that. A raid from third Railfee. I think that's how you say that. Greetings and much appreciated. How are you all doing? Thanks for the raid there, and what were you doing before you came over to this neck of the woods? And there's a dope frog along with Tantalium. Greetings. Third Railify. There we go. Much appreciated for that. That is, oh my goodness, that's actually a substantial amount of people. Much appreciated there. Have not had a raid of that size in just about ever on Rumble, so that is very nice. Thank you folks for coming by. Right now we are doing artwork for a D&D intro for a Star Wars campaign. It is some artwork that has been taking a while to try and get figured out, but it's been a good challenge, and got a recent one finished the other day, which would be this one right here. This is the artwork from last week, and right now we're in the process of updating some of the other art before sending off the next iteration of the intro to Moonskull over on YouTube. Yeah, much appreciated there. If you find anything of merit around here, be sure to like or dislike the stream. I accept both, because one of the things that I really want is to see that people are flesh and blood. And that's a really good way to be able to tell if somebody, found something in the stream either worthwhile or kind of wants to give me some ideas for correction. I will indeed take that. I was thinking about having... Oh my goodness. Cool channel, indeed. Better smash. Oh my goodness. A subscription. Oh, much appreciated there. Very, very nice. Very cool. Yes, indeed. So it has been quite the experience to try and get better at art. I am not very good. I'm trying to get better. I realize that one of the big problems I have is not really drawing every day. I've been trying to get better at that. Last couple of days I've been trying to really take up the pen or the Wacom stylus at least once a day to be able to at least get a little bit better. Robot death. Yeah, so this right here, let me explain a little bit. So, over on Moonskull, they've been having this series go on for a full year at this point. They have some characters, 4 characters, that have been going about on that adventure, and recently they just picked up a 5th character. So, this right here, Skek is one of the characters in the D&D campaign, and so thus we're having them find their new member among the trash pile with the help of Jawa. So this was a lot of fun to do. There's a lot of Easter eggs that are just kind of thrown throughout here. This right here is the villain for the story. Now the villain, I don't know how many appearances he's made. I know that he's at least made at least 1 or 2, but I don't know his backstory a whole lot. I can only stay up to date on so many other shows, and so I try and listen in whenever I can, but I miss quite a bit. And I do believe I have missed the appearance of this character. Right now we're using the program Clip Paint Studio. It is a great program. I like it way better than Photoshop. Way better than Animate. A lot of other... Mac Knight tonight. Oh, you noticed that character over there, did you? That is a running gag. So I was making a joke because Moonskull, in the name of the channel, is a skull that's shaped like a moon, or a moon that's shaped like a skull. So I said, well, you know, you kind of could have something a little bit more happy-go-lucky looking, maybe Mac Knight tonight. Throw him in there. And people have had mixed reviews on it. Some people love it, other people can't stand it. And so this is a gag that I get a chance to throw in because I'm in charge of the artwork. And so they all have to suffer with me. My stream glitched and I... oh, yes. So I'm Alaska Man Jeff. I'm over here on my other channel, which is Castercraft. Castercraft is where I try and develop art, stories, so forth. You'll see that there is a little area over at the bottom left of your screen where it's showing kind of promotions for the things I've been working on. I'm working on 3D animations, some books that I'm tinkering on. There will be some other neat things coming along, like Milo and the Demon Bear, which I've been tinkering on. It's a slow start. Slowly trying to get somewhere. Yeah, we will see if it pans out or not. Been building up the website that is helping to tie all that stuff together, so it has been quite the journey. It has been a journey for the last 2 years, and right now, this year is where I think a lot of those things are going to start coming about. Now, I got started as Alaska Man Jeff, but my very first channel was actually Castercraft. Alaska Man Jeff got recognized earlier on, and then Castercraft, I thought, well, now's the time to try and give that another shot, because my deep passion is to tell stories. Tell meaningful stories that I think are going to have merit for people to be able to kind of dig in and get something more than trivial gags or adrenaline rushes. I want it to be something where it sits with you, that you have to mull over and think about. Not as like a mystery or whatnot. It's all about trying to do things that make you have to think on a deeper level. Because we definitely need that in our day and age. And I don't like how online has made a whole bunch of trivial stuff. I want things that are deeply meaningful. You'll notice over on the side, there's one of those banners says Pharaoh and the Smith. That is the story that I'm trying to get out here in the next few days. It's not going to be online as a video or whatnot. It is going to be a script that I'm going to put out there and then potentially build upon it in the future. So we will wait and see what happens. But if you see something around here that you're like, hey, I really want to see more original projects, hopefully you will find some of that around here. Now, granted, I'm fairly slow at this stuff. I'm trying to get faster. So if you have the patience to kind of stop by every now and again and see if some of the stuff comes out, that would be much appreciated. Until then, you can still find some of the animations currently on this channel of Castercraft. Right now, there's some Lego animations that are on there. The next Lego animation is about Sasquatch. And that's a minute and a half, and so it's nothing too elaborate, but it is kind of I think, a little bit of a clever short idea. The animation's almost finished rendering. Been tinkering on it for a while. I met a dancing dragon on a dance floor in space during my spiritual awakening in 2008. Oh my. A dancing a dancing dragon. Well, takes How to Train Your Dragon to a whole new meaning, doesn't it? Now, one of the other things that I used to do early on in my streaming is I used to do roleplay. Now, I did actually quite a bit of it, and you can find some of those videos on the Alaska Man Jeff channel. I only got 2 of them edited because there just wasn't enough interest for it, and that's understandable. But that's when I really got this desire to want to tell stories again, because I had so much fun getting to figure out stories for that series, and we got down a couple dozen of them before I was like, okay, this story needs to upgrade. And so I hope to be able to share that story with you all relatively soon, of which I almost have the first one completely written. Much appreciated for that, Nero. That was very helpful. I bounce back and forth between the channels. Most of the time I spend it over here. Well, at least these days. For a while, I used to spend it almost primarily on the Alaska Man Jeff side. We used to have a lot of other streamers that we also worked with on that channel as well. That didn't last too terribly long, but it was fun while we did have it. Channels had highs, it's had lows, but most of the time it's been fun. There's been a lot of great opportunity, a lot of great people I've gotten to meet through it. And something else that I've kind of noticed is that it is a great place. Online is a great place to start to try and form communities again. Now, I was part of an online community years ago, and I got to see a lot of the pros and cons of it. Now, I'm not very good at community building. I do know that. But I'm really good at kind of helping to maintain the peace of communities. And so I was trying to help that community out. And, unfortunately didn't go so well because, well, there was a lot of issues that were going with that group. And eventually I had to move on and never quite was able to reestablish that sort of sense of community over here. But that's something that, sometimes you have something for a time and then eventually you have to try and move on and find new things. Make Nero mod. I know him enough that, it kind of does make sense here. If I knew how to do that. Oh golly, I don't even know how to use this this system over here. Chants are really hard to start online. I know it can be quite a challenge. Especially during the late evenings like this is right now. I'm the nighttime streamer. And so a lot of people come around here are kind of dozing off to sleep. And so I do realize sometimes people can come in and be carrying on a conversation. And some days everyone's engaging, and other days there's absolutely no engagement. All right, I don't know how to do this thing. I used to have a couple of mods over on the Rumble side. I lost that a while back. Well, I'll figure out some other time. Golly, I got to read up on that. It's been way too long since I've looked into how to do some of those things on Rumble. There are a couple of really neat elements about the Rumble side. One of the best parts is that it has really engaging community. One of the challenges is that it does suffer from a lot of tech problems. Now they are getting better at it, slowly but surely. We'll have to see how they continue to develop and grow the platform, because there are a couple of projects I would love to try and be able to pull off that YouTube really would not favor, but Rumble would be a much better place. I want to try and help develop the entertainment in family-friendly side. No, it's not like family-friendly as in, hey, look, we're going to be a kids channel. No, family-friendly in the sense of that everyone in the family has a chance to enjoy something, and you don't have to be worried about it. I like to cover some really deep, sometimes really challenging topics. And a lot of my media is kind of going to involve that. YouTube and some of the other platforms, they're not going to like it. And it also could be an opportunity for Rumble to start to see more of an entertainment side being developed. So if you find something like that interesting, hopefully you'll stop by and get to see it in the future. The first story is about a 20-30 minute read. It's kind of like the introduction to try and figure this stuff out, and then we'll move on from there. Nero is king mod. Just messing. Should ask if he can mod. Indeed. Run out of chips and I'm now drinking the sauce from the jar. Ugh. That would be pretty potent. Rumble is smally. Most of us see each other all over the place, but we go out of our way usually to support each other. That it does. Rumble is indeed very small, and you got to try and find something to help draw people that are not on Rumble. Rumble tends to lean towards some particular areas. I want to try and help broaden that option. I want to try and figure out how to bring in the narrative side. If you ever get curious about some of these stories, you can find actually a couple of discussions for like the kind of the historical storytelling aspect on a channel called Dadman Walking 55. He is over on the YouTube side, but I've gotten to go over there and tell stories. Otherwise, a lot of people kind of know from staying around here is that I ramble during my streams, and I will cover a lot of territory. But all of it is with a sense of storytelling, wanting to tell people a story, a narrative that has a purpose. Hopefully I'm able to make that transition to storytelling with art and maybe videos, maybe books. I don't know. I want to do videos. I'm kind of a small crew to try and pull off all that stuff, though, so thus takes me forever and a day. Keep in mind, mods can rate out your live stream and even ban you from your own stream. Ooh. So you want to keep that in mind before giving someone a shield. Hey, wait a minute. You mean I can go and ban Daramuth? The power. Since my awakening in 2008, I'm always learning, leaning towards esoteric. The esoteric. Ah, yes. I'm well over 40 shields now. So what I'm hearing is that Nero will have the ability to kind of gut the entirety of Rumble one day. That'd be a nightmare. Nero the Terror. You know, I got a story for you, actually, about getting banned from your own channel. This is actually a very, this was a hard lesson for me. I'm naturally a fairly trusting fella. I like to be very genuine. It's one of the reasons why I don't go by a username. I use my actual name because I don't want people to think that I'm being disingenuous. I want people to understand that I have I actually want to be a real person online. I don't want to try and be a persona. Well, one of the challenges with that is that then you have to deal with some nonsense. And I dealt with some real nonsense a while back. I was helping to develop a channel. It was going to be an esports channel. And in the process, I trusted the wrong people. I told them about, like, hey, here's some strategies to be able to build up this channel, and I was taking the opportunity to build up a Discord along with the preparations for a YouTube channel. We all were partners on the endeavor. And after a little while, one of them suddenly found out that I actually knew somebody that he really wanted to get the attention of. He was a simp, and I did not quite realize that. And so one day, he tears apart all of the good we had been doing to try and prepare this channel, these competitions. And I learned very quickly that you can be banned from something you created. He was mod, and he destroyed everything. He didn't even use it for himself. He just destroyed it because he wanted to show off to the person that he wanted to get the attention of. And that person did not want to have anything to do with him. So, joke was on him. But it was kind of a realization of what a person like that is willing to do. You have to be trusting. I really, you do. Our world is so full of people that are trying to scam and trick. We need something that's genuine. We can't think of the world as being cold and void of compassion, because otherwise we start to become uncompassionate. Personas can be more real than the real person sometimes, says Jersey over on Twitch. You know, that can sometimes be true. Due to technicalities, I've been writing myself in for the press since 2012. Interesting. Spent my whole life hiding in plain sight. Well, something to remember. Eventually somebody's going to figure out whoever you are, especially if you are a persona on the internet. I was working with somebody who was doing just that. They were trying to develop a brand, and they were trying to conceal who they were. One day, people found out, and it didn't go over so well. I decided to avoid that just by being out there in the open from the very start. And I was like, nope, we're not going to even toy around with that. We're just going to be as genuine as possible and proceed from there. But anyway, so the person that was trying to get a hold of this woman that I was in contact with on among a bunch of streamers, he got into the whole process of trying to build up this esports system. And I got so many messages afterwards saying, hey, when's the next competition? And I said, well, funny you should ask. We can't do it anymore because everything that we built was destroyed. And the moment that people heard that, then they're like, well, oh well. They just moved on. There was no desire to want to try and rekindle it, which makes sense, honestly. That kind of took the wind out of the sails for everybody because they realized, well, if infighting like that can happen already, we don't really want to be around. Makes sense. But it was something where I learned the hard way of that you cannot just trust anyone. But you still have to trust somebody. So the question comes down to, who do you trust? How do you try and find a balance between trusting and maybe being trusting and also maybe being a little cynical minded in order to try and help protect yourself? Where do you draw that line? I say that as I'm drawing lines on here. Because I've heard people give all sorts of different responses to that. Some people are all gung-ho, like, I want to only think about myself. And other people are far too caring. They want to care about everyone else. You have to try and find that balance. Online is very hard to try and pull that off, sadly. But we do have a chance to try and do that a little bit at a time in our own neck of the woods. But that being said, the most important place you can try and be genuine is your own local community. People in your community will care more about you than anyone you meet online, even though sometimes it can feel the opposite. You got to meet those people face to face. You get a chance to spend days with them. You get a chance to actually see people that are maybe in need. Online, it's really hard to see. It's really hard to be able to know if people are in need. But you can definitely know a lot more if you can see them face to face. No enlightenment without sufferance. There is truth in that. You learn through pain. Now, the wise man learns through another man's pain. But I gotta say, it sticks harder with you when you experience it yourself. But I have seen a lot of changes over the last 3 years that I've been streaming. And the biggest change for me happened when Reputation got destroyed. Now, you can't really change that. People online seem to really like the idea of destruction. Some people start to treat folks online almost like they're NPCs. That's really dangerous to try and do, because we're all flesh and blood. And even though we say sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, there's nothing more powerful than words. And I can testify that I have seen people get absolutely decimated by words. But if you have somebody that is being cynical and treating everybody as an NPC, stay away from such a person. They mean you harm. There's an inner divine spark that resides in anything with a soul. Yep. Unless it's the AI, then AI does not have it. By the way, that's one of the reasons why it's important to always look after each other, especially on online spaces. There's a guy that I knew. He was actually a pretty big streamer. I will not mention his name because I don't want to. He's not come to the end of his journey right now. He's still kind of in the throes of trouble. And so I will just put it this way. There's a guy that I know. When I got to meet him in person, I was working with him, and he was having a hard day. And so because I actually got to see him face to face, I sat down with him while the others were going about their business. And I asked him if he was okay. Now, I have worked with a lot of actors over the years, not like big-time actors, small-time actors, and they all have a very similar sort of personality to a lot of the biggest, most energetic streamers out there. I asked him if he's okay, and at first he was like, everything's fine. And after a little while of talking with him, he suddenly burst into tears, and was like, I can't get out. I want to get out. I don't know how to stop. Nobody knew that. Nobody knew that he was at the end of his rope. We all just saw him on the screen. We saw him in the text. We didn't know he was hurting. Well, the people that were with us decided instead to go forth and try and hurt him emotionally. He was having a heck of a time, and it was because he was broken. Well, they took it as that he was slacking, and so thus they tore into him. They mocked him, they ridiculed him, they tried to keep him from finding any sort of rest. It was honestly quite cruel. It's something to remember. We are all people, all flesh and blood, and we all have a soul that matters. If you're willing to sell it out for a few clicks, that's pretty bad. But it's also bad in the sense that none of us knew. That's why it's important to build community, to be able to be involved with people's lives, not to see each other as NPCs, but to see each other as people that are isolated in this world of online, that are in need of that community that all of us kind of lack in one way, shape, or form. I use my own name too. I'm just blessed with a good name. Cosmo Church. Hey, that's a good one, all right. Well, my name is kind of strange, and my handle is actually running my name. Indeed. But it is important to be able to at least pay attention to the people that are in online spaces, especially people that you interact with on a regular basis, because you never know what is going on with them. And I say all that stuff to kind of just be a reminder. Care about the people that you know, that especially those online that you're like, hey, I actually have a bit of a rapport with them. Try and be genuine. And you never know. You never know who might be in need and who might need help. Now, he was not the only streamer. He was not the only person that was in chats. There was actually another guy that happened almost the exact same thing. Now, he didn't break down to tears like that guy, but he was in a hard way. And it was kind of a reminder that people again put on a persona. You don't know what they're necessarily going through until it's kind of too late, and then kind of wish you had known earlier. I wish I still had contact with those people. I have not had contact with them in a while. Not because I don't want to. It's more like I don't want to cause them frustrations right now. And maybe one day I'll get a chance to reach out to them again and get to find out where they are in the journey of life. Father was born and raised in Dillon, South Carolina. Stomping ground. The Revolutionary Warfighter and the Swamp Fox. The Swamp Fox. Ooh, interesting. Very interesting. So here's a challenge. There are many reasons in this world to try and kind of disconnect. Ta-da! What happens, though, if you're genuine? Does that necessarily mean that things are going to get better for folks? No. I've actually met a couple of people where that did not go so well. And that's the other part of where treating people like NPCs is so very, very dangerous. There's another guy that I know. He's been streaming for about, 4 years at this point? And around the time of the start of the 4th year, something happened to him, and he had to step away. In the process, he then got roasted later on. People were not interested in how he was doing. Now, I have had the benefit of getting to meet these people firsthand and kind of get to hear their stories. But it is kind of interesting how online the new actors and actresses have become people that are online, not necessarily just streamers, anybody that is on online spaces. That's right, I forgot to have the kind of highlight on the back. End Times Comedian. Interesting. You know, there are a lot of people out there that I know who are in different stages of their online journey. One of the more common things that I have noticed is people that are having to deal with having to deal with a lot of medical stuff. There's a streamer that I knew who I had no idea that he was in a bad way, kind of health-wise, and that took me by surprise. It also took me by surprise when I found out that somebody that I was having a conversation with back in 2022, I think, was in a serious crisis. No one knew until it had passed. Again, if we had a more engaging community online, we would have known. We would have known to be praying for them and to try and find, trying to learn more, to be at least able to give them encouragement along the way. Never underestimate the power of encouragement. You never know what that will do for people. Indeed. So what motivates... Well, I kind of wonder what motivates everyone in their different journey of being online. I wonder how many people get in because it's trendy. How many people get on because it's entertaining? Or how many people it's because they're trying to find fame? I can definitely say for a matter of fact that those that get on to try and find fame, it doesn't go so very well. So even though Jersey mentioned about being famous, I can definitely say the fame doesn't actually exist. It's fleeting and it disappears very, very fast. And what's more, the fame actually becomes a burden, becomes very destructive. And you don't want to go through your life with a lot of the nonsense that comes along with it. Even though it's very appealing, it is not something that we should want, just because it is has so many problems that start to ensue because of it. Oh, I messed that up. Let's see here. Pop the normal. Yeah, I gotta make sure to keep this as the main brush here. Oopsies. Yep, my bad. There we go. Best and the worst of people doing the moderating thing, yeah. Indeed. By the way, if any of you folks do have a love of D&D or whatnot, be sure to check out Moonskull. It's run by a guy by the name of Erudai. He's a good fella. I've worked with him for many years at this point, and while I myself have never played D&D, I can definitely see the draw to it, and I can definitely say a lot of people enjoy it over there. I don't quite understand all the stories and the gimmicks that they kind of have going for it, but I do see that a lot of people have good fun with it. The ego drags all over the place in an effort to try and find validation, but it is largely fake, false, so the search becomes fruitless and heavy. There's a lot of truth in that. There's a whole lot of truth in that. A lot of people don't even realize that until it's kind of too late, and they have already, you could say, gone way off the beaten trail. It's no fun to find out that you made a mistake. And I've known many people that pursue fame that learn it is a mistake. There's one guy where he had the very terrible discovery that it ruined everything for him. His job, his marriage, everything. It robbed him and he became broken. But he didn't know how to get out. Kind of like the other guy that I mentioned earlier, who was like, I want to get out. It was for different reasons, but it was something where, again, they had the fame. They got to where everybody wants to be. And then suddenly, surprise, it's not what they expected. Power corrupts and fame corrupts. It makes you the worst form of yourself that you could be. Avoid power. Avoid the temptation of it. Avoid fame. Avoid the temptation of it. Now, you're not going to be able to escape it all the time. Sometimes it's going to follow you and it is going to work its way into your life and you're not going to be able to escape it. It's not the power or the fame that corrupts you necessarily. It is a weak heart that wants it. And then it really starts to corrupt you. You have to be able to resist it because, man, there are so many people out there that regret it. Try to be small time, just help to solve issues in muting spam. Hey, that's a good way to do it. Time to fix the rest of the hair here. Now that I've gone about doing that stuff. All right, let me pull up my reference again. I'm not good at hair, so this may turn out well, this may not. All right, so what people have done is they have actually filled in with the shadow and they've actually eaten away at it. That actually might be the better option here. Actually, I think I can just select this right now. Select that and increase the selection by 1 pixel. Okay, that's not going to work. It's too close. So we'll just do it like this and then refine it afterwards. Oop, too far. Okay, so now that I have that, I should be able to lock this. And then what other folks have done is it looks like they have used a kind of a watercolor brush. And then lit up the area. Actually, let me do it on this layer. This might work better. Down a vortex of depression and despair, felt under attack. You know, a lot of people would say that would be spiritual warfare. I felt that before. It's not any fun. gotta say, there's a lot of people these days that are struggling with a feeling of depression, feeling of grief, feeling of despair. Eventually, that despair starts to materialize into something very scary. And it actually causes horrible, horrible side effects. Darkness should never be underestimated. There was there's a couple of folks that I have known where they have had to face down a lot of trials in their life. Now, I've not had to deal with nearly the amount of trials that other people have had to deal with, but I have dealt with my own fair share. And one of the things I can definitely say is the more time you spend in the darkness, the more powerful it becomes in your life. Not to other people, but it becomes more powerful in your life, and eventually starts to destroy you. I've met people that are in a very, very bad state. And it all started early on in their life. It started with a sense of frustration, a sense of loss, a sense of growing pain. And slowly over time, they start to seek out comfort from something that doesn't offer any sort of protection, no amount of joy, no amount of counseling. And eventually, it grabs onto them and it refuses to let go. At that point, that's when a lot of people learn the importance of prayer. To be able to stay away from the darkness and to be able to seek counsel from Christ. To be able to abandon the darkness and see the darkness flee before the light. It is amazing. The darkness fears the light. Even a small candle can illuminate an entire room, an entire cavern. There was a journey that I got to do a couple years back. I was in the American Southeast. I don't remember the name of the cave that we went to, but it was a massive cave. And we got to follow a tour guide along with a group of people that went into that cave. For about a mile, we walked into this cave, slowly but surely trekking on in. As we look around, the whole place is lit up by lights that the people had installed in that cave. It was a wonderful path that they created, and it was a beautiful cave. And the whole time we kept thinking, those lights, without those lights, I wonder what this place would be like. And this was before everybody had cell phones with flashlights on them. We got to the end of the path, and then the tour guide said, "All right, everybody, I want you to turn off your flashlights, and I want you to just wait a little bit." He flipped the switch to the lights, and all the lights disappeared. I have never felt such darkness. I thought that the middle of the night was dark. I didn't realize that there's still something that you can see. And you can have your eyes shut and you still sense light. Where we were in the depths of the earth, there was no light. And the gnawing need to find some sort of light was eating at us. Over a few seconds, you just felt that itch. You're like, I want to turn on the flashlight. Eventually, he turned the lights back on, and I never felt so much comfort returning. The darkness had fled. Everyone there was nervous in that absolute darkness. Now, granted, we had a guide. We had someone with his finger on the lights. He led us back to the front, and after a couple of minutes of walking back out, we finally see the mouth of the cave, way down the way. A small pinprick, but it was a source of hope. source of restoration, of returning to the land of light. You never wanted to be in the darkness again. And eventually, when we got out, you had an appreciation for light. The darkness holds power over you the deeper you delve into it. But turning around, you will see a pinprick of light, and that's hope on the horizon. It doesn't matter how far down the path of darkness you go, you have the ability to turn around and find it. It takes courage. It takes a heart of wisdom. Because there is a lot of forces in this world that want us to go down the path of darkness. But I tell you what, it's no game. I have known people that have gone down that path, and they have some really scary things to say, what they find at the end. Now, I myself started going down some of those paths. Now, thankfully, I turned around early. But a lot of people don't, and they come to regret it. So anyway, just something to think about in this world, especially online. There's a lot of darkness out there, a whole lot of it. And we need a little bit of light to be able to help point us back towards restoration. Amen, indeed. Different kind of dark. For the same time, it is from the darkness that steps. Interesting. That's what it's like to be in the abyss. No light, no point of reference. Reminds me of the trip, says Nero, that we made to the salt mines in Poland. Ooh, you went to the salt mines in Poland. I got to go to the salt mines in Germany. In Salzburg. I didn't get a chance to go to Poland. I've heard that there's some pretty elaborate stuff over there. They did the same thing. Your mind will start to play tricks on you in the darkness. Yeah, I finally saw a faint, blush white pinprick of light. And to me, it was the light of God's love, and suddenly I was flooded with it. I'll tell you what, online spaces really do concern me. There's a lot of people out there that want the darkness to win. A lot of people that are actively trying to make the darkness more powerful. A lot of people that are trying to drag others into the darkness. It may seem like a game to many, but let me tell you a story of a friend of mine. Now, I've told the story before, so if you've been here for a while, it is my apologies for repeating the tale, but it's an important one. Mythology time again. So there was a guy that I got to know at college. He was a quirky fellow. Not necessarily a guy that you really want to admit that you're friends with. He's kind of like the type of guy that you're like, yeah, I'm friendly with him. You know, we're not actually friends, but I like him to think that we're friends because I don't want him to feel disturbed or anything. It was that sort of interaction. Well, after a while, I was like one of the only people he actually talked with. And finally he said, hey, you should watch this movie that I really, really enjoy. It's my favorite movie of all time. And I was like, okay, fine. We'll see it. I was not too interested in seeing it, but I didn't want to really turn my back on him. He was having kind of a tough go of things. And so I went to watch the series with him. And instead, something came up, and he was like, okay, well, here's the series. Watch it on your own. Come back and tell me what you think. So I took it back with me. Now, I had no idea what I was setting myself up for. I put the DVD into the DVD player because I prefer physical media, and that was the it was what he had. But as I put it in and I pressed play, I got a strong sense there was something wrong. The show played, and it got dark. It got very dark. And the whole time I was thinking, what in tarnation have I put into this DVD player? And then after a while, I started thinking, why is the show this guy's favorite thing in the world? He quoted it all the time. He would, he had all sorts of artwork from it. And he was watching something where it was about death, destruction, and fear. And I thought, there's something off about this. Well, I asked him about it. I said, that was very dark, very sinister. Why do you like this? And he said, oh, it makes me feel like, I kind of feel like I'm living it at times. And I was like, what the heck? You feel like you're living this horrible nightmare story? He's like, yeah. Well, I kind of let it go at that. A few years later, I found out he got very close to ending himself. He had gotten full of depression and fear from that, and he started thinking that it was the only way out. Thankfully, his parents stepped in, and after they took him to talk with a minister, he was much better. It took him a long time to recover, though, because he had spent so much time in the darkness. When he finally came out, the light was blinding to him. He told me the story about what he'd been down, and I had no idea. But I had it at the same time. I saw the thing that he was addicted to. I saw the thing that was dragging him. It was like the fingers of a demon coming up and trying to claw at him, pulling him down. And every time he put it into his DVD player and watched it, it was like the fingers of that kept wrapping around him a little bit more. Till finally it consumed him, and he got desperate. I hate that sort of media, because I've seen it not just harm him, but other friends of mine. The darkness is not to be trifled with. The darkness does have power, but it doesn't have great power. It has the power to harm. It has the power to humiliate, to shame, to try and tear you down. But it doesn't control you. Got to be able to resist it. Got to be able to pray, and eventually it will leave you. I experienced a dark cave at 8 Caves in Washington State. Golden rule and karma are a thing. There is truth in that. Now, I wouldn't quite call it karma. I would call it providence in that sense, but a similar sort of thing in that sense. You're humoring him? I was, but it definitely shocked him. Yes, there is evil out there. Recognize that a lot of computer/video games are what I call black magic virtual murder games. Sadly, there is truth in that. Music can do the same thing. That it can. We have to be able to point people to light. Night, Cosmo Church. Rest well. Thanks for coming by, and hopefully you found something of merit around here. Rest well, and we will see you next time, whenever that is. Remember the guy that I mentioned earlier about? The guy that ended up sabotaging the channel that I was helping him to make in the Discord that he blocked me from? There was a time I actually watched a game that he was playing. It was dark. It was all about torturing. I think it was called Scorn. And it was just, it was disgusting. And I saw him with glee on his stream, causing pain. And I thought there's something wicked about this guy, because it wasn't just that he was playing the game. He was savoring it. Well, eventually I was like, oh, well, that was like a warning sign. This is the sort of guy that he was. So what sort of person will our friends say of us? Who do they see when we are among them? Whether it's the movies that we give them to watch or the games that we play with them. What sort of person will they say of us? Will we be honorable and be considered a source of wisdom and kindness? Will we be a source of pain and suffering, like the streamer that I mentioned about earlier who was at his wit's end? Will we be a nightmare waiting to happen, kind of like the guy that was playing Scorn and ended up causing me frustration? What sort of person will we be remembered as? And remember that every act that we do has a consequence, both good and bad. Now, I had two things that people said of me when I was back at college years ago. They called me two things. One was stick in the mud. The other one, grandpa. When you're among youth, and the first thing they call you is old-fashioned and kind of killjoy, that can be discouraging to some. It can also be encouraging to others. Now, for me, it didn't really matter to me one way or the other. I didn't necessarily take it as a compliment. I didn't take it as an insult. I realized that they had a very different worldview than me, and for them, anything that was kind of an irritation to their way of life was, well, it was a killjoy. You were an old-fashioned man that didn't matter, whose opinion didn't matter. But when somebody was in need, you were the first person they would go to. So when it comes to online spaces, how will people remember us? When the book of life is opened up and we have to give an accounting for everything that we did in this life, will we be remembered for having done good, having cared for the needy? Because, yeah, there are people that are needy online. It's just a different type of needy. Will we be remembered for the cruelty that we spread? Will we be remembered for the charity that we do? Good questions, and ones that we don't spend enough time thinking about. This is your reminder to go forth and consider everything that you do is technically being watched. No, not by Big Brother or the government, although some people could say that they are indeed watching at all times. No, there's a much more important one that is watching us, and that is God. God is watching us, and He is recording what we do. There will be rewards, and there will be punishments, indeed. What sort of legacy will you leave? Because we can't take anything in this life with us. The only thing that we can do is leave things behind and take souls with us. A soul is the only thing we get to keep of this world, both our own and anyone else who joins us. Now, this hair turned out way better than the past one. Still not great, but not terrible either. Anyway, these are the sorts of rambles that I do during the night, so I know it's not necessarily entertaining sort of stuff, but it is something that I like to ask people those sorts of deep questions, because you never know. You never know how many people have heard that sort of stuff before. Come across a lot of people that haven't even heard that stuff once in their life. The Creator and / higher power watches and experiences His creation through us. In many ways, that is true. We are to bring joy and praise to Him through our life. It's kind of a small sort of task, isn't it? But man, can it become difficult at times. The devil wants to prevent us from being able to do that. He wants to discourage us. He wants to make us dwell on the darkness, to dwell on hate and ridicule, and to turn on people. Now, I'm not saying hate and ridicule the way that the world says it. No, there's other ways that are far more sinister. One of the greatest parts of the Bible that you can read about is the importance of love. Now, a lot of people say, "Oh, love, that's like that ooey gooey stuff or whatnot." No, this is the love and compassion that one has for a family member, for somebody that is a brother or a sister, or a friend that you want to see thrive in this life. That sort of love and compassion is so important. The devil wants us to forget that side. And God wants us to remember that. Love God, love each other. That's what all the commandments can be summed up as. I really sort of didn't believe in God, the Creator, until I got surprised in 2008 when I spontaneously awakened. You know, we all have different journeys in that. He had a bit more of a dramatic one in that sense. But I tell you what, we're in an age of deception right now. Man, there's a lot of deception out there right now. A lot of people that are broken, and a lot of people who are living a lie. Right now, there is a lot of people that are waking up. Some people in very dramatic ways. Some people in very subtle ways. But there's one thing that is certain. I think we all understand now what happens when darkness is allowed to reign too much in our lives. There was a moment when I was a kid. It was a moment where I had a realization. Now, I did have a dream that really shook me to my core, and it was telling. If it wasn't providential, then at least it was a cry out of the heart, realizing where things were going. And gotta say, there's a lot of questions I was not willing to kind of wrestle with. I was thrown into the deep end in many ways. It's important to have realization that there is indeed danger if you go through life serving only yourself. We all are sinful by nature, but if we allow that sinful nature to control us, and it ruins so much. Being able to be humble, to be able to say, yes, I am in desperate need of help, is so crucial. Kind of like my friend who got very close to the end of his life in a very dramatic way. We have to be able to wake up to the danger well before it kind of comes to us and knocks on our door. All right, I think I'm ready to go on to the next stage of this process. Hopefully this works. All right, I'm going to use a fingertip blend, and let me duplicate this just because I don't trust myself with this one. I'm not liking that one. Yeah, I think I'm not going to be able to go about this way. A long, dark night of the soul. Yeah, some people go through that. For me, it was a moment of realization and fear of the recognition that I was indeed nearly human, and that as human, we have to answer for the things that we do. There's also the realization that I was indeed flawed, and man, that's, for some people, that can be a really hard thing to try and come to terms with. I've known a couple of people that really struggle with that one. I myself struggled with it a bit. It's one of the reasons why we have to be humble. Humility will help to allow us to acknowledge our mistakes and to be able to grow and improve. Now I think this is actually going to work here. Jersey over on Twitch says, a few years ago I believed in God for like 40 minutes. I woke up to some dark creature sitting on my chest. I was too scared to even look at it or move an inch. But when it ended, I spent the whole night looking up what happened to me, thinking it was a demon. Found out it was a sleep paralysis. Jersey? You're not going to see this in scientific circles a whole lot. You did see the demon. Sleep paralysis has been viewed in different ways. But you know what's always surprising? There is indeed darkness in this world. I've heard some very surprising stories. You know the best way to get rid of those things is prayer. I'm not saying that trivially either. You have seen what only a few people in this life will see. Now granted, it could be your mind playing tricks on you. But I tell you what, there is a moment when that sort of stuff becomes very real. And regardless, it is a reminder to us about the dangers that exist. This world is full of evil spirits that are trying to destroy us. They can't really touch us in many ways, but they can definitely make us afraid. It's a reminder Not necessarily that they have power over us, but it's that if we reject light, their power will grow. A small candle is all it takes, you could say, to cause the darkness to flee. Reciting psalms can help. It can help out a lot. I hope that you take it to heart. It's up to you to decide how you go forth with that. But do not trivialize the dark. It is a cruel force Satan wants to harm. That's his chosen purpose. His chosen purpose is to cause pain, fear, and grief. And one day, he will try to destroy all of humanity. He will fail. But until then, he tries to destroy us each individually, here and there. Do not be afraid of the dark. Be afraid of the absence of light. A heart that is full of Christ cannot be overcome by the darkness. Darkness flees the light. Up here in Alaska, because Alaska Man Jeff is not just my title, I literally live in Alaska. There's a man that I got to hear when I was in my teens. He wrote a book called Jesus and the Eskimos. He came from a shaman family, and he told the story in his book about what happened to his grandfather. He was a shaman who had no understanding of the gospel. And one day, he was dreaming, and he saw a figure of light coming and saying that messengers were coming. He ignored it and instead went through with his process of becoming a shaman. And he said that he was filled with a buzzing in his ears that was terrifying. He knew that a spirit was near. When the gospel came to the area, the dark spirit fled, and he never heard the buzzing again. It was just the mere presence of people who worshiped God that were in the area. That was enough to scare the demon away. Read scripture. Don't just dive into the first part. Read the New Testament. Read the Psalms. Especially if you are in a moment of fear. And regardless of whatever it is that you're struggling with, you will find comfort start to come. Prince says, yep, ego and free will, and I will meet the mother of my soul. I realize that, though I was gifted with free will, I'd rather do whatever God wills, for God's will has to be better, right? Absolutely. It is indeed better, and what's more, Prince, God can see all. He knows what he asks of us. He knows that it's for the best. If we challenge it, it doesn't go so well for us because we're filled with pride. And we don't know what tomorrow holds, but God does. He is the keeper of time. He is the keeper of our life. It doesn't matter what we encounter in this world. He's in charge of it. So thus, yes, his will is always better. Trying to discern his will is a little bit harder because we are but human. And we don't understand all the promptings that he gives us. But he also gives us free will. Free will to choose the right and the wrong. He doesn't necessarily give us a roadmap of how we are supposed to live. Well, correction, how we're supposed to live day to day. But he just gives us a list of rules and guides for how to live life so that we can be able to live with free will in a wise manner. At some point, we come to the realization that our ego-driven drives are not really us and no longer serve us, but we must discard them indeed. We also need to learn how to love and forgive ourselves, for if we love not ourselves, then how can we love others? There's truth in that. Now, we don't want to be overcome with self-love because that becomes then a bit of the ego side, but being able to care for yourself is important. But the most important thing is to get God's forgiveness. We can forgive ourselves all day. I've known some people that are like, oh, well, I forgave myself for this, or forgave myself for that. Yeah, but how about the person you offended? In particular, God. Or the person that you offended that you're like, I don't really want to do that. That's embarrassing. Well, it's still important to ask for forgiveness regardless. I was thinking about it, says Jersey, that event like that would make many people believe in spiritual stuff. I pray you never have to encounter that again. I really do. You've experienced what it's like to have real fear. Nothing in this world is as terrifying as the spiritual realm. We are favored in that sense, that we have a creator who cares enough for us to spare us from that sort of stuff. Sadly, we also are struggling with a creature that has a desire to destroy us. Satan has all of our worst intentions in mind. He will offer his hand and say, look, I will give you everything you ever wanted. Fame, like that, you're going to be famous. Money, I will give you more money than you can even count. Power, I will give you all the power in the world. That's what Satan offers. That's what he's tempted people throughout the era. And you know what? Every time people give in and turn to Satan, it doesn't go well. Satan is a destroyer, and he will deceive, and he will shame. I remember hearing it like this. For God, he was so compassionate that he wanted to send his son to die in our place. He wanted us to be restored, and so he took the penalty. He was the judge that was going to punish us, and he also became the one who redeemed us. Satan, on the other hand, offers us a way out. He gives us all the desires of our heart. And then the moment that he has us, he crushes us. I've heard some fascinating stories of people that were offered everything, you could say, by a shaman sort of system, or through witchcraft. People that are trying to make a deal with the devil, and it never, ever, ever goes well. And instead they're filled with fear, grief, trauma, and then eventually destroyed completely. Because Satan hates his own followers. That's why he wants everyone to suffer. If Satan was a good spirit, he would realize that mankind is in deep need of redemption. But rather than that, he hates the fact that we get redemption. He hates the fact that we are privileged in that sense, that we get to find restoration. And as such, he wants nothing more than for us to live in fear, to live in grief, live in suffering. Now, it's kind of strange in a couple ways, because God, in many ways, wants us also to live in suffering. But it's a very different type of suffering. I've mentioned this story before, but if you've ever studied the process of growing plants, you know that there's something very interesting about trees. When there was preparations to try and build a colony on Mars, and they were trying to figure out the logistics of how to do it, they went to a greenhouse and they set everything up just like they were going to have it on Mars. All the plants were ready to go. The tomato plants were growing just fine. The potato plants were growing just fine. The trees were growing just fine. Well, until a couple of years passed, and then the trees got to such a size that they suddenly fell over. Every single tree. All the bushes grew just fine. Like, why did the trees die? They had perfect amount of sunlight. They had a perfect amount of water. The temperature is great. They were pruned. They were well taken care of. Why did the trees die? They found out it was because there was no wind. See, when wind blows, it causes the trees to flex. Now, some trees will break, but a tree has to have the cracking start to form from the wind. And in doing so, the tree will get stronger. The tallest trees in the world have withstood hurricanes, and they still stand. When God gives us pain, it's to make us stronger. He will not give us pain just for the joy of it. He gives us pain so we have to wrestle with it, to overcome it. How many of us thank him for that? Not many. It can be overwhelming to think about, honestly. It's like, but I don't want this struggle. Well, Christ struggled. He suffered. God knows what makes us stronger, knows what makes us better. He doesn't give it to us out of glee. He gives it to us because he wants us to be great works of art. Incredible, incredible servants. But Satan, he gives us pain just so we give a sort of joy, spite, a desire to want to say, almost as if it's for Satan to look at the Creator and say, aha, I have hurt more people. Gleefully. We don't understand fully the cosmic conflict that is taking place, the spiritual warfare that takes place on this earth. But we do get to see bits and pieces of it. We have been spared. We don't get to see all the inner workings of what the spiritual world is like. I do think that is a blessing, because I think it would actually be quite terrifying in many ways. I don't know, scaring people off with encounters like that would be counterproductive for demons and stuff, as people would start to believe in gods and stuff. Now, notice what you just said there. Believe in gods and stuff. A lot of people, to get rid of that stuff, they believe in the pagan circles. They believe that believing in the spirits, in paying homage to the spirits, will protect them. It's not about believing in gods. It's about believing in one true God. Not believing in the dark spirits that offer a hand of escape. If you study pagan cultures, you'll start to see a trend there. A lot of them offer not necessarily redemption. They offer kind of a payment. You have to pay them to protect you or to let you go. Something to remember. There is a very big difference between the different cultures. It's one of the reasons why, when the Bible was spread throughout the world and the message of Christ entered into pagan circles, that a lot of the people immediately started repenting. When the gospel arrived in Ireland, for example, the Druids resisted it, but the people accepted it because they had lived in fear. And when they first felt the redemption and forgiveness and the peace, they flocked to it en masse. Do not give the darkness power. Do not pay homage to him either. Still waiting for the rest of the cosmic download, just because I've had a spiritual awakening doesn't necessarily mean that I'm spiritually enlightened. That is what is what comes from reading the Bible. You can listen to all the teachers in the world, but if you don't read the scriptures for yourself, a lot of that teaching will kind of become null and void. Really, I do mean that. No amount of enlightenment, no amount of teaching can ever replace the need for self-study. You know, that's one of the reasons why the Bible was given, so that way we have a direct access to how God thinks, how he wants us to think. Mankind can mess up in their message. I've messed up in the message in many ways. You get a chance to critique it, to be able to go back to the source and say, is this true? Is this not? It's one of the reasons why, honestly, the devil's been trying to twist a lot of the scriptures as of late. He wants us to have a hard time, and he's introduced a whole lot of new translations that have muddied the water. So it's become a lot harder. New King James Version seems to be a really good one, in my opinion. New International Version is one I grew up with, and so I have one of the earlier versions, and it makes a whole lot of sense. But you want to find something that's written in your language to be able to understand. Then you'll start to find a lot of the truth that you're seeking. Alright, so that technique might work. Let's try it over here. It's one of the reasons why I actually have avoided some projects. I did not go to Hollywood. I could have gone to Hollywood early on for animation, and I didn't. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that a lot of the companies out there wanted me to create dark projects. I was like, I really don't want to be remembered for having added to the darkness. I want to be remembered for adding to the light. And sure, there are some things I don't necessarily completely agree with. The things I've had to make. And I hope eventually to make my own stories where I get a chance to make meaningful tales that will help people to be pointed towards the light. By the way, that's what Pharaoh and the Smith is going to be. It is a story that explores some of the journeys of the soul. And a lot of it is based upon personal experience. A lot of it is based upon the experiences of teachers that I've gotten to listen to. And so hopefully people find it inspiring. It will be for free on the website. I'm not trying to gatekeep it or anything. So I already have it all set up. I just have an editor that's looking at it to give me some, to make sure that it makes sense before I put it out there. But it's going to explore this idea of forging through about how, honestly, how God actually gives us struggles to bless us. The vision I had in 2008, I felt like I was witnessing Satan. I was standing at the top of a huge amphitheater, and down at the bottom was an alabaster white figure that looked like Apollo, sitting on an alabaster throne, and there were people worshiping this thing that, if I had stood up, would have been 3,040 feet tall. My eyes were black, but not empty, just full of blackness. That radiated off of it was malevolence. And what radiated off of it was malevolence. We've got a lot of outside exterior distractions that are keeping us from doing the work of looking for the kingdom of heaven within. Good attitude to have. That's enough dark negative energies in this place. Much appreciated for the For the clarification there, though, Prince. You know, Jesus was tempted. Satan came up to him and offered him all sorts of things. Satan comes as an angel of light, but he has malevolence and cruelty. Christ came in humility and kindness. When people expected him to be a judge that was going to destroy everything, there were priests that brought in an adulterous woman, threw her down in front of him and said she was caught in adultery. And rather than adhere to the law that the Old Testament had written, he instead showed mercy and instead let the woman go. He forgave her and said, "Go and sin no more." It's a very different sort of presence than what Satan is. I think right now we're in a world that is becoming aware that, 30 to 40 foot tall. Okay, that makes more sense. I was going to say that's a very specific number. 3,040. 30 to 40 would make more sense. But Satan offered the kingdoms of the world to Christ. And Christ told him that you are not to tempt. And he told him to be gone. And so Satan left for a more opportune time. Now, what does that mean, opportune time? No one really knows. Some people have theorized that means that it's going to be the Antichrist one day. Woe to him who chooses to follow Satan, because he'll become a terrible creature, and God will judge him most severely. We all have a choice to follow God or to follow Satan. Open up the Bible and read it. Do not rely upon superstitions. Do not rely upon the teachings of one teacher or another. Rely upon the source. Right now, there's a lot of confusion out there. There are people out there, teachers, people that have thousands of followers, and they are telling lies. You need the source of truth. Otherwise, we all become doomed in many ways. You know, once you start to reject the darkness, the world starts to fill with a lot of light. And it gets to be really nice. Sure, it doesn't mean that everything is perfect. There's a lot of struggles in this life. But you know, the fear disappears. The hate disappears. Even death no longer is fearful. There's a guy that I know, he was so scared of the future. And eventually, he found peace and joy in Christ. His fears melted away, and he found true comfort. The hard part is to go and sin no more. He always said that, didn't he? Go and sin no more. Yes. But let me ask you this. Let me put it this way. In the New Testament, we get a chance to see in the letters that are written after the Gospels what that means. Paul himself mentioned that he struggled with sin. Paul, the greatest missionary that has ever lived. He went and got to testify in front of Caesar. He got to be the bridge between the Jew and the Gentile. He got to offer clarity to those that lived in confusion because they didn't have the Jewish background, those that didn't understand the law. And instead, he mentioned about how he himself still struggled with sin. You can go and, quote, sin no more. But it doesn't mean the temptation stops. Now, if we give in to sin, that becomes a problem. But Christ mentions that if we are willing to forgive, the Father in heaven will forgive us. We get a chance to walk and grow and improve over time. We're not meant to be perfect in a moment. Otherwise, we'd have to leave this life. We'd have to leave this flesh that we have. We're not meant to do that just yet. We're sent out into the world to help witness to the world, to teach it, to help them understand that there's hope. We are all going to mess up. I've messed up. I mess up today. You can't go a single day without messing up. But repentance means to admit that you're wrong and say, you know what? I have messed up. I have sinned again. Forgive me and help me to do better. That's the prayer that I give. You can't escape sin. But by gum, you better give sin a run for its money whenever you can. And you know the best way to help prevent sin? To be among fellow believers. Sin starts to become a lot more manageable. I tell you what, in isolation, sin grows in power. Among fellow believers, sin becomes harder and harder to grasp. Because you're surrounded by light. And Satan seems to understand that. And he doesn't tempt us in the same way. Now, granted, we still get tempted, but a lot of the worst sins that we can kind of have, that we feel like, darn, we can't get rid of it, those sins become, in my opinion, more manageable. Now, if you deal with like anger issues, then that's something where maybe being around other people doesn't help you. But it can. I never use a selection tool to draw like this, but I see artists using this technique a lot. It is a very useful technique, and one that I've used quite a lot for this intro. I can say it's actually gives very organic sort of a feel to it, and I do like it a bit, but I do not like using it for everything like some artists do. But it does give some really neat effects. Now I got to do a little bit of that with the eyebrows. Oh, wrong one. I feel like everyone in this world is going to have a different, everyone in this world is going to have a different sort of journey when it comes to how their faith was grown. Some people, it's very, very dramatic. There's a Muslim that I got him to hear testify, and he mentioned how he had a dream. And he was a very faithful Muslim. And then one day, he saw Christ calling to him. And he suddenly was filled with fear because he realized that he was so desperate to want to do what was right to Allah. And he didn't realize that in his dedication, he was worshiping the wrong deity. And it shocked him to his core. And he changed in a moment. He became a very strong, incredible believer after that. Doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what stage you began your journey. The worst thing you can do is to, well, not heed the promptings of the Spirit, because we all are going to be given different sort of promptings. Some of them very dramatic, some of them very subtle. For me, it was like somewhere in between. Some of it was subtle, some of it was felt very extreme. I don't know where it actually fell, but it was enough to where it startled me. And I didn't want to ignore that prompting. But there are people in this world that do ignore the prompting, of which one of them was a friend of mine who struggled with most of his life. He was an older fella, and eventually he got to the end of his life, and he was clutching desperately onto himself. And it's like, I don't want to admit that I was wrong. I don't want to admit that there is a God. And it took him many years to finally admit it. And finally, when he did, his composure changed. And as the person who got to be with him in the last few days mentioned, he suddenly was filled with joy, and his life turned around at the very, very end. But do you want to risk it at the very end? Or do you want to instead spend most of your life trying to pursue that end? Maybe you'll struggle. Maybe you'll have a hard time, but wouldn't you rather struggle with it now while you have a chance than later on when it becomes overwhelming? That was the story that really made me start thinking about kind of the struggles that I was dealing with, and like, well, sure, are they painful to go through? Absolutely. But it's more terrifying when you're older and you could say the bill comes due and God starts to knock and saying, your time is coming. At first, it sounds scary until you start to realize that paradise waits on the other side. Then it becomes comforting. You don't hear people talking about that a whole lot. They like to think about this life and this life only. We have to think about the next life, for that's where we'll spend eternity. And what sort of eternity will it be? Well, that's why what we spend this life searching for. When we're growing up, we're observing others and how those people are handling life's problems. We admire how certain people handle a situation, says Prince. So we adopt/adapt, and we make a part of their ego. But it's not us. It's like a suit of armor that we've built up over an inner divine soul/light. We've built a fortress around our hearts, like Sting sings about, that is largely fake, made from pieces of other people's egos and personalities. If we got to discard what is fake and keep what is in us. Nice artwork, much appreciated. You're very kind. I'm starting to get to that point where my reading is getting worse, so my apologies. We're going to have to end this in a moment. Kind of hoping to get this hair done first before we do it. I think it's at the point. Almost. We'll do this hair. This is the first time I've actually done hair in this style, so I'm kind of taking my time longer than I should, because I really wanted to see what it's going to be like to try and do this. We will show the before and after, what the original piece of artwork looks like, and then this. Let's bring back the shadows. Now we can start to cut back on those shadows here. Are these storyboards? Not exactly, but these are for an animatic. This is for the D&D intro. That is a series of paintings that are animated across the scene. I'll show the current one when we're finished with this one. The show will continue on this Saturday. I've done a couple of these storyboards, these animated storyboards in that sense, over the years, and my techniques keep changing, and this one I've spent way too much time trying to do. But I've had a lot of fun with it. One day I hope to do, I would love to make an anime, like a really hardcore, complex anime story. Because anime is actually fairly easy to make, and I think that it has a great amount of potential, of which the story is being written right now. Now, it may take a while to actually make that happen, because you can't really do it by yourself. Hopefully, I get a chance to do it one day, but we will see. God willing, it will take place. And if not, well, at least I'll have kind of had fun learning the process. I distracted you. I distract myself most of these streams. So, every stream, just about every stream, ends up into a series of very deep, philosophical, theological, complex concepts. I am my own worst enemy in that sense. It's no one in particular. I do it all the time. Some people are just like, just shut up and, and do the stuff. That's not me, though. There's too many things in this world that are meaningful, and so I would rather get distracted with deep philosophical, theological questions, because not a lot of people think about them online. I mean, yes, there are areas that think about it, but you're rarely going to find an artist that talks about this stuff. And so I like to be the outlier in that sense. By the way, just a reminder, folks, if you find anything of merit around here, would you consider liking the stream? And if you think I'm off my rocker, feel free to dislike the stream. I will accept both, because it means that you're flesh and blood. Right now, I currently see on... Well, actually, let me refresh things here. Stand by. Currently, I see there's 29 people on the Rumble side. And so, I know that there's a lot of people on Rumble, but there's also a lot of bots. And so if you like or dislike the stream, I'll take both. But that just helps me to know who is real and who is not. Anyway, that'd be much appreciated. I do my own worst enemy. I guess that's why I have horny ridges. Oh no. Well, you know, something to remember about the Mark of Cain that you mentioned about. You know that the mark that was given to Cain was actually to protect him? Cain sinned. Cain killed Abel. And he knew that others were going to want to seek vengeance. And God said, you know what? I still care about you. And he put a mark on his head. Sure, Cain was going to mess up even further down the line, but God still cared about him. And said, you know what? I'm going to give a marking so people know that I am protecting you, and they will not come after you. This piece of artwork is going to stand out like a sore thumb because all the other pieces of artwork are going to look so pitiful by comparison. Well, maybe not pitiful, but a lot of the other drawings are very bad because they were done last year, back when I didn't have a whole lot of skill in this stuff. Not a bot. Much appreciated. Yes, that is indeed exactly what I want to see. We hate bots around here. You know, the majority of the internet is bots. So I have a website that I've been building up slowly over time. And the amount of bot traffic on there is huge compared to everyone else. And now, there are people out there, they will go out and they'll say, oh, look at all the traffic I got to my website. And I'm like, yeah, right. You didn't actually get the traffic. It's actually bots. I like bots. AI is cool. No, Jersey, don't do that. Don't go down that path. It's dangerous. Reject the AI. Reject the bots. Embrace humanity. Embrace each other. I'm an avid AI hater for those that are over on the Rumble side that don't know. My middle name is Kenneth, roots of which is Cain. Ah, interesting. Everyone gets a choice of the sort of man or woman they want to be. I tell you what, there are a lot of people in this world that want to be in darkness, that want to be the bad guy. Every one of us is given the opportunity to avoid that. I wonder what the average person will choose. Because I have noticed that the roots of humanity is definitely evil. I know a lot of people that actively choose darkness, who actively choose evil. We do get that choice, though. Because I wonder what happens if we soften this. Because we're done with the shadows, let's duplicate this, and then let's soften some of the shadows. Just a few of them. Blur. Oh, that actually turned out decent. I like that. I like that. That's probably too strong. How do you pick colors for the shadows? I just pick the base color and darken it a little. So there is actually technically a strategy for that. Let me show you this right over here. We're going to create a new layer. We're going to select the color blue, since we already have it. And we're going to increase this and... Oh, my bad. Wrong brush. Here we go. Here's our blue color. If we want to do a highlight, there's two things that have to happen. We increase the brightness of it. So right there, that's brighter. But it looks flat, doesn't it? See, the majority of light has color in it, and it's going to affect the object. If you have a yellow light and a blue object, what's going to happen? Your hue is going to change just a little bit. So instead of that, we're going to have this. Notice the difference? And the same thing for the shadow. You have the shadow. Well, you're going to go darker. So you're going to go clockwise in this sense. You're going to go towards the purples. Maybe not true purple, but somewhere in the middle. Somewhere over there. And then we're also going to darken it. So we're darkening and we're changing the hue. Then we're able to blend them together and it fits a lot better. That's my strategy for finding the colors. Hopefully it made sense. There's so much negative media that projects onto us all the time. Yeah. Yep. And you know what? There's a lot of streamers out there that do the same thing. I was part of a bigger streaming community once, back when I first became Alaska Man Jeff. And there was a lot of really bad decisions that were taking place there. And something I noticed was a lot of their media was designed to try and make people worse. They wanted to feed off of people's pain and frustration. And so they would try and build up what I call false hype, trying to get people to do like the comment shouting, "Let's go," and things like that. And let's get the bits thrown out there. Let's get more subs out there. They were all trying to make it a revenue stream. And thus they were feeding off of people's loneliness, off of their bitterness, and a lot of the times their anger. Negative media is all over the place. We have to avoid that sort of stuff, because it doesn't make us better. It makes us worse. One of the worst experiences I had growing up was media. And I told my parents when I was young, I want to become a filmmaker and a storyteller. And they're like, "What? Why would you want to do that? That's stupid." Well, it was because I had such a very bad experience with media that I was like, I don't want people to have to go through that stuff without an alternative. Now, granted, I've not been very successful, but in my heart, that's the reason why I would go down this path. Because I want to be able to tell stories to give people some light, some hope at the end of the tunnel, to help remind people that there is right and wrong in this world, and that there is something on the horizon that's not just darkness, that there's something hopeful that can give them the courage and the energy to press on. But it all started because someone made a film that scared the daylights out of me and damaged my spirit. But yeah, there's a lot of darkness out there. A lot of media that wants desperately to cause us to be afraid, to break us, and cause us to want to welcome the darkness. Oh yeah, that's a huge problem. Just let the darkness in. Oh, it's not as bad as you think it is. I won't go into the details, but I have met some people where they are the pinnacle of darkness. And you can see it in their eyes. They are not good people. They toy with the darkness. And eventually the darkness comes to grip onto them. In retrospect, I think a lot of them, if they knew what was going to happen, wouldn't want that path. But also at the same time, I've come to realize a lot of people choose that path. By the way, the triangle color palette picker is better than the generic square one. Yes, it is. Let me mention what the difference is between the square and the triangle. Now, on the square, you have your values split between 4 different locations. But there's actually only 3 variations for your colors. You have light, you have dark, and you have saturation. The color square doesn't really focus on that. It kind of overwhelms you with other. Your color wheel in the triangle is technically how color is perceived. Now, there's a better way to do it, and I'm hoping one day they create a different color wheel. But that one's going to require better computers to get to that scale, and better screens. Because right now we have kind of pitiful screens when it's all said and done. Our screens are not designed for really high quality. The dragon loves dancing to techno. Is that a dancing queen? You know, there's some things about this that turned out better than I expected, and there's a lot of things that didn't. Still better than some other things I've done, but definitely not my best piece of artwork. There's going to be one more layer of shadow that's going to be put over him. That's going to make this blend a little bit better. What's the purpose of the glove that you're wearing? And what kind of tablet are you using? There used to be a popular one back in the day, and that I forgot the name of. So the one that was popular back in the day was the Wacom tablet. So the Wacom tablet, actually let me shift my screen around here. So the Wacom tablet is still, in my opinion, the pinnacle of the tablet market. A lot of people don't think so anymore, though. There's a lot of people there, they like the Chinese brand, which is out there. I'm not a fan. I've heard some bad things about the Chinese brand that people are not talking about because it actually is not as long-lasting as people say. I have been using this tablet for years. I got it in 2013, and it's still working just like new. I don't know about you, but that is some longevity. That was one of the... I've used this thing so much. It is one of the best investments, probably the best investment I've ever made. $800 for it back in the day. And I've gotten hundreds and hundreds of hours in this. I've done commissions with it. I've done art for just my own joy of it. I've done so many things with it, and got my first freelance job with it. I still use it most weeks. The glove is so that your hand doesn't stick to the screen. Because unfortunately, a lot of the times you're working on a screen, the screen is going to create heat, and lo and behold, that heat is eventually going to cause your hand to become sweaty. This helps to prevent that. It doesn't get rid of it entirely, but it helps to prevent that from becoming too big of an issue. You know, I suddenly have had a change of heart in this. How far back is it going to allow me to undo? Oh, perfect. Alright, we're going to keep that down there that way, but we're going to add another layer of shadow over top of it. This will make it far better. Because the robes, it needs to be sharp. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to do this. and then add in another layer of shadow to add some texture to it, and also to kind of make it a little bit more blend in with some of the other art that has been made, which has a bit more dramatic shading in it, with sharp edges. You don't want to be, too perfect, you could say. Yeah, that's actually going to look far better. The other one was just becoming too smooth for the type of artwork that I've been kind of trying to make. Yeah, it looks infinitely better. Some of it also on the face. That one's going to be a bit harder. Drawing tablet, Wacom. I need to try and get one. I used to do art years ago, but the flu vaccine shot that ruined my health and was as if my motivation, and it was my motivation and inspiration, it went out the window. Yeah. I've heard that sort of story from people that have had that sort of stuff. I've been a big promoter of the Japanese 5-minute technique. You don't need a tablet to get back into art. In fact, the majority of the time, all you need is a pencil and paper. Now, I do suggest getting some good quality paper, which you can get at most stores these days. Cardstock does really well, actually. Even note cards. I actually really enjoy drawing on note cards. Very handy. But you don't need a tablet to get started. But what I do suggest is the 5-minute rule. In Japanese culture, if you are trying to get back into something or trying to learn a technique, what they will have people do is they will tell them to spend 5 minutes doing it. No more. And then afterwards, they stop. Even if they're in the middle of the project, and they step away. A few minutes later, they come back and they try another 5 minutes. A few minutes later, they come back and they try 6 minutes. And then they get up to around 30 minutes by slowly incrementing it over several days. And then by the time they get to about 30 minutes, they start increasing the increments that they do it. For long, they're making masterpieces or doing all sorts of other very useful sort of tasks, whether it's taking care of your house, whether it's doing stuff for work, any number of things. Okay, this is actually probably going to be better. We'll change the color on this one before too long, because I think this texture is going to actually fit better with some of the other animation stuff so far, but not entirely like this. We're going to add in some highlights, and we'll delete that. Come over here and grab this highlight right here and delete that. Now come in here, add another layer. Now do kind of the reverse. Grab this color, increase the temperature a little bit, increase the brightness a little bit, and boom. Oh, wait a minute, that's right. I forgot. This has bit of a slight pink aura to it, so it kind of goes in the reverse. And that was not my choice. That was actually the choice of the original artist that drew the concept art that I'm having to base this off of. Prismacolor art pencils. Hey, those are pretty good. Pretty good indeed. So why square ones are generic? Let me actually pull up the example here. So I'm sorry, I missed that one from earlier. Where is it? Trying to just pull up an internet reference so I can hold it up and, not have to change the settings on my area here. Okay, here we go. Alright, it's not the best picture, but it'll do. Okay, open image, new tab. Here we go. So notice what this is right here. The black overtakes the entire bottom. Now you can be able to pick along here fairly easily, and honestly some people do prefer to have this. But you'll notice that as we go down, it doesn't really benefit any. It's spread out, but if you were to pinch it together, you would have a triangle. If we come over to clip paint, you'll notice over here, we have black, we have white, and we have color. But over here on the square, we have white, we have color, we have black, and we have black. In my opinion, not as efficient. And honestly, can actually make it a little bit more difficult to select colors, depending on the project. Why are screenless tablets? So, that's why screenless tablets are the best then. Oh yeah, for the glove. Cool and cozy. You are correct. It is actually very nice to have that sort of concept. I do miss the ability to put your hand on a screen that is not burning. Now, thankfully, mine is fairly cool. Apparently, some of the cheaper ones out there do get really hot. That's something to always remember. If something is for a cheaper price, it's for a reason. Yeah. There's a lot of promotion for some of the more, for some of these cheaper brands, and I'm not a fan of them because there's a lot of problems with them, and nobody talks about it because everyone's trying to get sponsored by them. And so I saw some artists, they're like, oh, I love my Chinese tablet. And I'm like, but I've heard all these problems with it. Oh, it's nothing. And they're trying to get sponsored by them, trying to get a free tablet. You're not going to see that for me because I paid for my tablet. And I have the credentials of having used it since 2013 with no problems. So when I say that this tablet is great, that's the reason why. Now, I've heard Wacom's not as good as it used to be. I have heard that. But man, this is a good tablet. And it's a small one. So I wish I had the big one. Oh, I would have loved to have had a big one. But we're not meant to always have whatever we want. Sometimes when we get what we want, it doesn't quite go as we expect. And it can actually make us lazy and ineffective. Okay, now let's tone back some of these values so it blends together a little bit nicer. I like that dark one there. Oh yeah, skin highlight. Forgot about that because like the skin just looks a little flat. Grab that. Notice how I'm going with kind of generic shapes, and some people, well, it makes it a lot faster, and it actually kind of adds an interesting style to it. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I started using it early on for this project just because it actually made it a lot easier to kind of make the scenes. Right now we grab the darker tones, come along here. Now, I'm going to come back here and then reduce it from some of these areas. After this, we will show the intro that I have currently done and show the comparison of how some of the other artwork has turned out. It will cause the stream to glitch a little bit. I have had that problem. I do not know why that is happening, and I can't really get it to stop. So just be forewarned, in a few moments here, there will probably be a stream glitch, at which point you have to probably refresh the stream. That's only if you want to see, how this stuff looks. We've gone way longer than I was planning to for tonight, so we're not going to be doing this for much longer. I'm just going to blend a little bit of this because I don't want to come back and continue this one tomorrow. I want to move on to the next part of this project. All right. Now we'll do this area right here. Just going to soften that up a little bit. There we go. Okay. All right. Big villain character is ready to replace his previous self. So, his previous self looks atrocious by comparison. I'm going to move him to the top so we can see the difference. This is what he used to be. Oh, you can't really see him? Well, that was because I could not get the character to look the way I wanted, so I just didn't really do it. I just covered him with black shadows and called it quits. This is much closer to what I was hoping for. So this will go into the scene. Let me remove the background right there. There will be some color effects that go in to help blend him in a little bit better. But for the most part, this guy is complete. I'm scared of doing shadows this dark. I do lights and shadows only a bit brighter, darker. You have to be able to find the sort of style that you want to go with. For me, I've used some different techniques. For this one right here, I used a much brighter technique. This one is supposed to be the villain, so I chose darker shadows for this one. And actually, I do need to change the shadows. I said I was going to change the color of the shadows here. So I'm going to take that opportunity right now, increase that, and then we're going to change the shadows to Yes, kind of a purplish color. But anyway, and remove it right around there. There we go. But anyway, the different techniques that you use will change from project to project depending on what sort of story you're trying to tell. Now, there's a couple of stories that I want to tell that are going to require a very lighthearted palette. There's some others that are going to require some pretty drastic contrast, and hopefully if I can get the really high quality stuff done, I really want to go with a certain style for a story called This Little Light. It's going to be that's one of my earlier passion projects I want to get done, so we will see if that actually comes to pass. All right, so stream will probably glitch here a little. Oh wait a minute, never mind, it's not going to glitch. I already have it pulled up. Okay. So this is the character that this was initially based off of. So you can see kind of a simple low resolution version, and I tried to bring it back and make him a little bit tougher looking, just for the sake of it. Here is the intro as it currently stands. Let me change the audio source so that way we can be able to hear it. And let me change to our theater mode. Where's the theater? Theater. Okay, that's not the theater. It's this one. Nope. Theater. Here we go. Okay. Going to the theater. No, the people are still here talking in the background. Wonderful. All right, we're going to pause that for a moment. Now, this intro is honestly a little longer than it should be. It was not my decision to go with this direction, but it is the one that was approved. Okay, so people in the background, shut up. Wonderful. Okay, so without further ado, this is the intro as it currently stands, and now you're going to see the scene that this guy is going to be updated in, and that will be towards the middle. Enjoy. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a process of improving artwork over an entire year. You'll notice there were... Shut up. There we go. You'll notice there was a lot of stuff in the background that was... There were some good scenes. There were some bad scenes, too. I've been trying to upgrade some of the worst scenes. And I'm not going to be able to improve the entire thing. There's some that, honestly, don't need to be upgraded, but I just wanted to upgrade a few of them. Tomorrow we're going to upgrade one more, and I might do another one after that. We will see. But anyway, we're going to be bringing the stream to a close. Much appreciated for your time. It was some good points, and hopefully the discussion was worthwhile of your time. This has been a fun project to work on, and after this, we're going to be going back to doing some artwork for The Adventures of Milo, which is a commission that was made by a viewer like you back when we had the Art Redeems. Those ones were... Ooh, those are labor-intensive things, and I really enjoyed doing them. Well, there's one last one that was put on the shelf that is going to be finished this week. There's some other things that will be taking place very soon. Hopefully, you will get to hear about it sooner rather than later. If you are curious about some of the big things that are taking place, be sure to take the opportunity to go and visit Castercraft.com. Castercraft.net. Sorry, not .com, .net. This is where you will see the updates for some of the projects that are being worked upon and some of the plans that are going in that I kind of have. There's some really neat things that you'll see in the coming days. The first one is going to be this one right here, is Pharaoh and the Smith. Pharaoh and the Smith is a story that I am deeply passionate about, and I hope that you find it interesting, as it has been interesting to write. Anyway, that will be coming relatively soon. But on that note, we're going to be calling it an evening. They'll look better than the things I can draw. Hey, you know, we all start somewhere. Your drawings will eventually surpass mine, because I don't spend a whole lot of time practicing. So you do have the chance to surpass fairly easily. I pretty much be trying to do since I'm a baby dragon. All right. Well, folks, let me see. We do have enough people on the Rumble side. I'm going to try and figure out a raid. Now, I have not... I don't know too many places that might be live right now, but I'm going to check. Let's see here. All right, we have... Okay. Who are some of these people? Again, oh, okay, they're doing Rumble Premium. I can't do that one. What about this one? Destiny of Fate. That might be something. It'll be just a moment till I locate where I send you all. But either way, it'll take me a moment to try and figure this part out. But anyway, if you're going to head on out and have a very pleasant evening and morning, everybody, no matter where you are in the journey of life, be civil to one another. And we will see you next time, whenever that is. Looks like we're going to go over and visit Republic Sentinel. I don't know why. Honestly, maybe it's the prompting of the spirit. But either way, have a wonderful evening, folks. I'm going to start the process of raiding on the Rumble side, and then we will go to the ending screen for the rest of the stream. Good night, all. I will see you later. Starting the raid for Rumble. Heading on over there in 3, 2, 1. All right. That seems to be taking. Let me double check that everything is good to go on that side. And that looks like it's working. Yay, nay? All right. Okay, do that. There we go. Okay. With that, we're out. See you later.